The first time I saw the creature, I thought it was a hallucination brought on by the planet's toxic pollen. 12 hours into my first patrol on Helios 9, lungs burning from the thin atmosphere despite my respirator, and suddenly there it was, 6 limbs of rippling obsidian muscle, eyes like molten copper, and a mouthful of teeth that could shred titanium. I froze. The standard issue field manual was explicit. Do not run from apex predators. But the manual also said these things hunt in packs, and this one was alone. Curious. Kovacs? You still with us? Commander Vega's voice crackled through my comms, startling both me and the creature. It retreated into the undergrowth with surprising grace for something the size of a small shuttlecraft. Yes, still here. I managed, my heart hammering against my ribs. Just taking environmental readings. Well, hurry it up. Storm front moving in, and I don't want to explain to HQ why our fresh meat got fried on his first day. Fresh meat. Funny choice of words. I wasn't supposed to be here. 3 months ago, I was Ren Kovacs, assistant curator at the Natural History Museum in New Sydney. Now, I was Private Kovacs, human recruit to the Interstellar Survey Corps, tracking through the bioluminescent forests of a planet 27 light-years from Earth. The opportunity of a lifetime, my draft notice had called it. More like the mistake of someone's algorithm. The ISC needed xenobiologists, sure, but they usually preferred ones with military training and without severe allergies to adventure. I had applied on a dare, certain I'd be rejected. Apparently, the Corps was desperate enough to overlook my qualifications, or lack thereof. Humanity needs to understand these new worlds, Captain Jiang had told our batch during orientation. We need eyes that see differently. Fresh perspectives. Translation. The real scientists were dying too quickly out here. I trudged back toward the outpost, scanning for movement. Nothing but the gentle swaying of the spiral-shaped flora that dominated this region of Helios 9. The locals called them whisper willows. The locals being the small settlement of research colonists who'd been here 5 years already, all looking like they'd aged 20. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those copper ones staring back. I pulled up the station's database on my tablet, scrolling through indigenous fauna until I found it. Apex helianthus, colloquially known as Shadowstalkers. Territorial ambush hunters with distributed neural networks similar to Earth octopi. Highly intelligent, extremely dangerous. Hunting success rate, 96.7%. And at the bottom, highlighted in red, responsible for 12 human fatalities since colonization began. Approach with extreme caution. Lethal force authorized. Making friends already? I jumped, nearly dropping my tablet. Lien Park, the outpost's resident physicist, stood in the doorway of the barracks, arms folded across her chest. Just some light reading before bed, I said, closing the file. Most newbies go for the welcome package, not the obituaries. She smirked. Saw one, didn't you? I nodded. Where? Sector 4, near the western ridge. Alone? That's odd. Lien frowned. They hunt in packs. 3 to 5 usually. Maybe it was a scout? They don't scout. They coordinate. It's why they're so effective. She studied me curiously. And it didn't attack you? No. It just watched me. Then left when my comms went off. Interesting. Very interesting. Her expression turned thoughtful. Kovacs, right? The museum guy. Curator. I corrected automatically. Assistant curator. Former. Uh-huh. Well, curator, get some sleep. Tomorrow's your first real expedition. She turned to leave, then paused. And maybe keep the Shadowstalker encounter to yourself. Commander Vega gets twitchy about those things. Lost his partner to one last year. Sleep didn't come any easier after that conversation. The next day's expedition took us deeper into the forest. 5 of us, Commander Vega leading, Lien with her atmospheric sampling gear, Dr. Wexler collecting botanical specimens, Security Officer Hayes watching our backs, and me carrying everyone's equipment like a pack mule. So why Shadowstalkers? I asked Wexler as he carefully clipped samples from a pulsating fungus. The colonists named them, he replied without looking up. They move through darkness like it's nothing. Thermal vision, echolocation, and some sort of electromagnetic sensing we don't fully understand yet. They see you long before you see them. Comforting. Nature isn't about comfort, Kovacs. It's about survival. He sealed his sample. And on Helios 9, we're not at the top of the food chain. That's when I felt it, the sensation of being watched. A prickling awareness that made the hair on my neck stand up. I scanned the tree slowly, trying not to be obvious. There, between two massive whisper willows, the Shadowstalker, same copper eyes, same midnight hide, watching me. Hayes, I whispered. 3 o'clock, between the trees. The security officer swung around, pulse rifle raised, but the creature had already vanished. There's nothing there, Kovacs. It was there. I swear it was the same one from yesterday. Hayes lowered her weapon, but kept it ready. Shadowstalkers don't follow people, kid. They ambush. If it was stalking you, you'd already be digesting in its secondary stomach by now. But I wasn't imagining things. Throughout the day, I caught glimpses of it. A shadow moving parallel to our path, copper eyes reflecting the bioluminescent glow of the forest, always maintaining its distance, always watching me specifically. By the third day, I was convinced. The creature was following me. Not hunting. Following. Like a curious cat. A curious cat the size of a rhino with enough teeth to populate a shark convention. On day 4, I decided to test my theory. While the others were setting up camp, I volunteered to collect water from a nearby stream. Alone. Take a sidearm at least, Hayes insisted, handing me her backup pistol. The moment I was out of sight, I felt the familiar presence. This time, I didn't pretend not to notice. I turned slowly toward the sensation. I know you're there, I said, feeling ridiculous talking to an empty forest. You've been following me for days. Silence. Then a rustle of movement. The Shadowstalker emerged from the underbrush, more fully than I'd seen it before. In the dappled light of the forest, I could appreciate the complexity of its form, somewhere between a panther, a Komodo dragon, and your worst nightmare, with a glossy hide that seemed to absorb light. Its 6 limbs moved with unsettling coordination. It stopped 10 meters away, watching me. Neither aggressive nor afraid. What do you want? I asked softly. The creature tilted its head. Actually tilted its head, like a confused dog. Then it did something that nearly stopped my heart. It mimicked my posture, shifting its weight to mirror my stance. Holy shit, I whispered. The Shadowstalker made a soft clicking sound, then took a step closer. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to shoot, to do anything but stand there. But curiosity, the same thing that had got me into this mess of a career change, kept me rooted to the spot. It approached carefully, stopping just out of arm's reach. Close enough that I could smell its musty, metallic scent. Close enough to see that what I'd taken for solid copper eyes were actually rings of amber around vertical pupils. Then it extended one of its front limbs toward me. A gesture so deliberate it couldn't be anything but communication. I should have called for backup. I should have raised the pistol. Instead, heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest, I slowly extended my hand. Our fingertips, mine soft and pink, its leathery and clawed, hovered inches apart. A moment stretched between us, fragile as spun glass. Kovacs, Commander Vega's voice shattered the silence. Report in. The Shadowstalker recoiled, hissing, and disappeared into the forest with astonishing speed, just as Vega crashed through the underbrush, weapon drawn. Sir, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I was just collecting water. Vega looked around suspiciously. Thought I heard voices. Just talking to myself. Bad habit. He didn't seem convinced, but nodded toward camp. Hurry up. We're getting strange readings. Might need to cut the expedition short. That night, I couldn't focus on anything. My mind kept returning to that almost touch, that deliberate communication. Everything we knew about Shadowstalkers, their hunting patterns, their aggression toward humans, contradicted what I'd experienced. I slipped out of my sleeping bag and went to Lien's tent, hoping she was still awake. She was poring over data on her tablet. I need to talk to you, I said without preamble. About the Shadowstalker. She set her tablet aside, studying my face. It's still following you. Yes. And it tried to communicate with me today. And I think I think it's alone because it's different. I think it's trying to understand us. Me, specifically. Lien was quiet for a long moment. Kovacs, do you know why the ISC really brought you here? Because their algorithm malfunctioned? Because your psych profile showed unusually high empathy patterns for non-human intelligence. They didn't want another military meathead. They wanted someone who might see what the rest of us have been missing. I stared at her. You're saying they wanted me to connect with the local wildlife? I'm saying there's more to this planet than we understand, and maybe there's more to the Shadowstalkers too. She leaned forward. The colonists have a legend about them. They say that once, long ago, a human child was lost in the forest. When they found her 3 days later, she was being protected by a Shadowstalker. The colonists tried to kill it, but the girl wouldn't let them. She said it had chosen her. Chosen. The original settlers theorized that some Shadowstalkers form bonds with other species. A kind of interspecies adoption. But it was dismissed as fantasy when the attack started. Lien's eyes gleamed in the dim light. What if they were right? What if this one has chosen you? Before I could respond, alarms blared across the camp. Vega's voice came over the comms. All personnel, defensive positions. We've got company. Lien and I rushed outside to see flares illuminating the sky and the distinct silhouette of an unmarked shuttle breaking atmosphere. Pirates, Lien breathed. Resource raiders. As chaos erupted around us, I caught a glimpse of copper eyes at the edge of the camp. The Shadowstalker was watching, waiting, and somehow, I knew it wasn't there for blood. It was there for me. Raiders on Helios. 9 weren't uncommon. The planet's unique biochemistry produced compounds worth fortunes on the black market. What was uncommon was the precision of this attack. Fall back to the shuttle. Vega ordered as pulse fire lit up the night. I grabbed my pack and research tablet, then froze. Hayes was down, clutching her leg, with raiders advancing on her position. I fired Vega's sidearm wildly as I ran to her, more to create confusion than with any hope of hitting anything. It worked just long enough to reach Hayes and drag her behind cover. "What the hell are you doing, Kovacs?" she hissed. "Apparently making terrible life choices," I replied, checking her wound. "Can you walk?" "Not fast enough." We were cut off from the others. A raider appeared at the edge of our cover, weapon raised. I closed my eyes, waiting for the blast. It never came. Instead, there was a terrifying shriek, followed by screams. I opened my eyes to see the Shadowstalker, my Shadowstalker, tearing through the raider. More converged, firing wildly, but the creature moved with impossible speed, a living shadow flowing between their shots. "Holy shit," Hayes whispered. "We need to move. Now." I help her up. "That thing is helping us." "No, it's helping me." I wasn't sure how I knew, but I was certain. We hobbled into the forest. The bioluminescent flora cast enough light to navigate, but not enough to move quickly with an injured companion. "The others will think we're dead," Hayes said. "Better than actually being dead. There's a research substation about 5 clicks east." 2 hours in, Hayes collapsed. Her wound had reopened, and fever was setting in. I administered emergency antibiotics from my pack. "You should keep going," she murmured. I was about to respond when I felt it, that familiar sensation of being watched. The Shadowstalker had found us, its hide splattered with blood, some of it its own. It was limping slightly, one limb held at an odd angle. Hayes reached for her weapon, but I stopped her. "Wait." The creature approached and lowered itself to the ground in a non-threatening posture. "It's injured," I said. "So are we," Hayes replied, but with more curiosity than fear. The Shadowstalker made that clicking sound I'd heard before, then turned its head toward the east. "I'm going to call it Karis," I decided. "You naming it now?" "Jesus Kovacs." It's better than Shadowstalker. That sounds like a teenage vampire hunter. With Hayes leaning on me and Karis leading, we continued through the forest. The creature moved with purpose, occasionally doubling back to check on us. It led us to a small cave hidden behind a waterfall. Inside, the walls were covered in bioluminescent fungi, casting the cave in a soft blue glow. "I think it's Karis's den," I said as I helped Hayes sit down. I approached Karis cautiously to check its wound. "This might sting." I applied antimicrobial spray. Karis hissed, but didn't lash out. As I worked, I noticed small scars around its neck and limbs. Old injuries long healed. Someone's hurt you before, I murmured. Is that why you're alone? The creature made a low sound, almost like a purr. You two are adorable, Hayes said dryly. But unless your new friend can call for extraction, we're still screwed. I checked my tablet, still no signal. But as I was about to put it away, Karis nudged my arm, looking at the device. What? This? I held up the tablet. Karis made that clicking sound again, then used one of its smaller limbs to touch the screen. The gesture was so deliberate, so human-like, that I almost dropped the tablet in shock. Hayes, are you seeing this? Either I'm hallucinating from fever, or that thing is trying to use your computer. I placed the tablet on the ground. Karis touched the mapping application with surprising precision, showing our location relative to the outpost. Then it touched another spot on the map, a location about halfway between our position and the outpost. I think it's trying to show us something, I said. Or leading us into a trap, Hayes countered. If it wanted to kill us, we'd already be dead. We rested until morning. Hayes's fever broke just before dawn. As the first light filtered through the waterfall, we prepared to leave. Karis led us along hidden paths through the forest. By midday, we reached a ridge overlooking a valley. Below us, nestled among the whisper willows, was a structure, not human-made, but not entirely natural. It looked like a massive hive, integrated with the surrounding vegetation. What the hell is that? Hayes whispered. As we approached, I noticed movement. Other Shadowstalkers, at least a dozen, emerging from openings in the walls. Kovacs, we need to leave. Hayes reached for her weapon. No, wait. I placed my hand on hers. Look at them. The Shadowstalkers weren't advancing aggressively. They were gathering, watching us with those same intelligent eyes. Among them were smaller ones, juveniles, and I realized we were looking at a family group. Karis approached the largest of them, touching its head to the others in greeting. They communicated in a series of clicks and rumbles. They're intelligent, Hayes said, her voice a mix of awe and disbelief. Actually intelligent. Not just intelligent, I replied. Social. Complex. I turned to her. Everything we thought we knew about this species is wrong. They're not just apex predators, they're sentient. Then why the attacks on humans? Defense, probably. Protection of territory. An older Shadowstalker approached, judging by the gray mottling on its hide. It led us deeper into the structure, where the walls were lined with bioluminescent fungi. In the central chamber, the elder stopped before a wall covered in marks, deliberate patterns carved into the surface. It's writing, I breathed, or record-keeping. The elder pressed one limb against a section showing conflict between Shadowstalker forms and human-like shapes, then another section showing structures with the ISC insignia. They can distinguish between us and the raiders, I said. They know we're different groups. The elder touched a marking showing a Shadowstalker and human figure side by side, then looked at Karis and me. The legend Lien mentioned, the human child protected by a Shadowstalker. It wasn't a one-time occurrence. It's part of their culture. Bonding, Hayes said, like Karis bonded with you. Not just bonding, learning, communication. I looked at Karis with new understanding. It chose me to establish contact. The elder extended a limb toward me. I reached out, touching my hand to its leathery appendage. A connection, a beginning. 3 days later, we stood watching Captain Zhang's shuttle descend. After leaving the Shadowstalker community, Karis had led us safely back to the outpost. Lien had been ecstatic about our discoveries, immediately assembling a research team. Commander Vega had been harder to convince, but even he had to admit that our findings changed everything. Karis had refused to leave my side, and other Shadowstalkers had begun cautiously approaching the settlement. Not to attack, but to observe. Captain Zhang emerged from the shuttle, flanked by officials. They stopped short at the sight of Karis, hands moving toward weapons. It's all right, I called, placing a hand on Karis's neck. This is what I come to you about. This is our breakthrough. Zhang approached cautiously. Private Kovacs, your report indicated you've made first contact with an indigenous intelligence. Yes, Captain. This is Karis. I turned to the Shadowstalker. Karis, this is Captain Jiang. Friend. Karis studied the newcomer, then slowly extended a limb in greeting. Jiang looked at the offered appendage, then at me. Decision time. Acknowledge a new intelligence, or retreat into fear. She took a deep breath and extended her hand. Well, Kovacs, she said as their limbs touched, it seems your unusual qualifications were exactly what this mission needed after all. Karis made a satisfied clicking sound, and I could have sworn it was laughing. He was just a human recruit, Hayes said with a grin, but the planet's deadliest predator followed him like an alien cub. And it might just change everything we thought we knew. I smiled, scratching the spot behind Karis's sensory ridge that I discovered it enjoyed. Not predator and prey, but partners in a new understanding. The first of many bridges between our worlds.